Hi everyone, let's finish this up with the creation of the hair. Now, this could use some more tweaks, but for the sake of going forward on this, I wanted to show you the final step here, which is adding hair. And you'll notice I didn't really add anything but color to this whole time because I wanted to make sure that I really wasn't paying attention to the tiny details of that versus trying to get the shape of this face put together. As you'll see with this series as well, you'll notice that my eyes have been shifting and scaling in size because as I make adjustments to the color and to the rest of the details here, I'm noticing that there's little things that need to tweak. So we're making things move and evolve on a level where we're getting to a plateau with the quality, and then we move everything up to that next plateau. We don't want to just peak in one area, have something completely finished off, and then go and fix something else. I kind of think about that idea of we're slowly bringing things into focus. It's better to do it that way rather than to work up just a really nice nose and then try to build things around that, because if you just build a really, really nice nose, you might notice that it's not going to fit with everything else that you have. So slowly building up all of your details is the best way to go. With the hair, I just needed to add some color. And that's all I kind of had to worry about at this point. I do have some shading from the ambient occlusion that's affecting that, and it actually doesn't look too bad just like this, but I do want to add some additional details here. In the link I will share, or in the details, I'll explain one of my favorite artists, Ben Mathis. He has a really nice write-up on how to do painted hair, but I wanted to also look at here's Kingdom Hearts 3. There's some example of hair there. There is this right here. I think that's a nice example as well. And if we look at Link from Breath of the Wild, that's almost like a toon shader. The details are much more minimal than what I'm even working with here. And here is Link from Skyward Sword, which perpetually seems confused. And I don't know why his face was really, really strange to me in this one. But you'll notice, I guess I'll deal with it. You'll notice in this one, very minimal amount of details that are in the paint on this figure. So we're trying to figure out what's the best way to go with this. And I think when we look at that, it is something that it could be a combination of a few different ways. We're not necessarily trying to make super hyper realistic work, but we also want to make sure that it does, it flows with the design of this figure. So what I'm going to do here is start trying to break this down by adding some details. And I have the hair right here. I've already got that mask for my group, and I've got my solid color. I'm going to duplicate that. Now that I have this duplicated, what I want to do with this, and you'll notice I added a little bit more color to it because I have that set to multiply, and the opacity was set to 66. So I'm going to go ahead and go into my filter, and I want to go into render, and then I want to do fibers. Now with this, let me zoom out here to show you what I got. This can give some interesting results to our piece. And why I say that is because it may not necessarily give us exactly what we're looking for. I think the biggest challenge as a digital artist is you have so many different tools that do things for you. And at some point, it can, I think, actually detract from the tools can pull away your thought process, and a lot of times people feel, wow, look at that magical thing just made fibers. That's the best way to go. And all of a sudden you abandon your own thought process and you ruin it. So I think fibers can work for us, but it's not giving us any reason for the way the fibers are being generated. We need to kind of think about highlights and shadow on this, and we need to think about how we can put this together that actually makes sense for us. So you'll notice the fibers filled up the whole piece here. And if I sample this, just save, you're going to notice as I move this thing around, how it's going to affect the way that this looks. For me, what I'm trying to do is get something that's got too much sort of stripe in there. That's okay. I think it stands out a little bit too much. I'm going more towards the lighter end of this, where you can see more of the light end on that side. I'm going to save this. And that's actually looking a lot better. I don't like that stripe down the middle, so I'm going to try to tweak that a little bit more. And I'm going to try to use this here. So I have like sort of a base texture or strands that are happening here. And again, if I pull up what's going on with this cringeworthy smile from this character, there's, I don't know why, but this guy, this figure, uncanny valley almost all the time. And I don't know if it's just the rigs that they're using. All these characters, they look nice, and then this guy is just kind of, I don't know if he's crying on the inside or what's going on. But if we pay attention to the hair on this, it's darker in the root area, and it kind of ramps outwards where the lightest part is on the tip. So we're gonna kind of go with that. What you're noticing though on this, there's no glossiness that usually happens in the hair. So we're gonna try and add that. And that may be an art decision where they did that because the glossiness was going to cause a lot of problems for the model, or the texture. It might have been detracting from the face. So we have to make those decisions as well. If I'm going to put a gloss, like a stroke across here where there's a highlight, if that's happening all over the place, all of a sudden we're looking at the hair a lot more than looking at the face. And we've totally failed at what we're trying to do. We're trying to make a character. We're not trying to make a commercial for a hair product. So we always need to be thinking about what is the main objective for what we're trying to accomplish. Now that I have this, I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer above this. And this layer is going to be a brown. And what I want to do is go across the top and have that set as multiply. And what this is going to do for me is kind of paint the roots. Now, I don't want my opacity to be super, super high. I also don't want that to be straight across. I want to kind of flow with some strands. So I'm going to again take my smudge tool and kind of push and pull. And why I'm doing this is because hair has layers to it. It's not just this tube that all anime characters, for whatever reason, generally have. They have these spiky tubes, but it's got strands to it, and so there's a level of depth to hair that I think is a smart idea to try to push in to our texture. So if I save this and I look at what this is going to do for me, you're already seeing that happen across the top. So you're getting some depth on that. That's really cool how that's already starting to work. I should probably continue that, and I kind of want to think about highlights on the bottom too. So let's try to do that idea with Kingdom Hearts style. I'm going to call this my roots. And I'm going to make a new layer. And this time it's going to go more of a gold yellow. And I want to paint basically across the bottom. Now that I have this, I'm going to do the smudge technique again. I want to make sure I have that all the way coated. I don't want to have that little gap that was there. Okay. And this time, let's try to do, let's try a screen, but again, knock that back. Okay, let's see if we can work with this now. So I'm going to push and pull some strands on here, and this may not work the way I want it to. I kind of have to test. A little bit goes a long way. And don't be afraid to experiment with this to see what you can come up with. So I'm going to take a second here to save and see what this is doing for my model. Okay, since this is stretching so far down, the roots are hard to see, and so is my my highlights. So, or not even highlights, but the base of this. So if I end up taking this and hit Control T, well, that's not really going to help out well because it's going all the way down there. I'm going to actually go from here to here and hit Control T. Now, if I hold down shift and scale this up, I'm going to actually go really, really, really far on that. I'm going to hit enter, save, and you'll notice right away, whole different look. Now, it's cool, it's got some depth to it, but it's kind of weird. So again, play around, opacity, a little bit can go a long way. That's already getting a little bit better. But we're still missing some stuff. So I'm going to actually go into roots. I want to put that above and sample this and pull that down. See if I can get that out a little bit more too. So pull that down a little bit. Save. Okay. Now you can see right here it pulled and I didn't grab that piece. So I was actually missing some of this. I'm going to hit from here, Control T, and pull that down. Enter, save. Okay. So anytime I see strands like this, they're a little bit too chunky. That's where I try to wrangle that and get that a little bit more broken up. Reduce just how intense some of these pieces can be. And again, I'm using my mouse for this, not really anything too crazy. Nuclear option on this, erase, and then smudge some more just to build that up again. There we go. All right. So I've got a little bit of highlights there. We're losing it. And I've got shadows or roots, but I need to have a little bit more of like an accent across this midsection. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to go ahead and paint another layer across, maybe around here. Now that looks terrible. So let's start playing around with our blends and see, can we get something to make that brighter and more shiny? Yes, we can. So overlay will allow for us to get more of a shine to our hair. The problem again is that my brush took everything across that path. So I need to kind of sculpt this as well. So what I'm going to do here is just like I was doing earlier, I'm going to push and pull. So I'm looking at this as this is a lower section of hair right down here, and these are higher pieces. So by doing this right here, I am getting sort of those really cool highlights that happen in hair. And if I end up feeling like I'm pulling or pushing too much, shrink it down. And just pull some of these out on their own. So now that I have something like this, let's see what this did. Okay. Notice how dramatic that is. Just that one little piece is really, really changing the way our sense of highlight and shadow is. It's really kind of a little bit hard to look at. Another thing to realize too, I think right now I'm on default lighting. Flat lighting is the way to have this, and right now it looks like that hasn't changed, so that's good. I wanted to make sure, yeah, default wasn't what I ever wanted to have. You never want to be looking at it like this. You want to be looking at that with our flat lighting. That's what we'd be using for this. So let's see if we can fix this. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to zoom out, and I'm squinting my eyes right now. You can't see that, and I'm glad. But I'm squinting my eyes because what I'm trying to do is figure out my highlight and my shadows. And I can see when as soon as I do that, the problems that are happening. This is standing out so much that we're drawn to that immediately on her hair. Like it's just intense. So the first thing I want to do, I'm going to reposition this. I'm going to move it down, and I want to save that. I want to see what that's doing. That makes a little bit more sense. I'm also going to hit Control T and scale this up and down more. So now if I have something like this, what is that doing to my texture? Okay, it did something. Let me move it here, and let me knock back my opacity. A little bit can go a long way. Okay. That's looking okay. I'm starting to think I need to shrink that down more. It was going a little bit too far. All right. So that's starting to look a little bit better. I do think maybe the edges are getting lost a little bit. So I'm also going to take just across here, lighten that up. This is the point where it is going to be important to save often to see what our changes are going to be doing on our work. And let's say that we've got just a couple more highlights across here. Okay. So that's starting to get there. Some of the spots that I don't like, I think, come from our fibers. So I'm going to turn that off and hit save again. I'm just going to kind of look at what I've done. And is that better than what the fibers are doing for me? Are the fibers adding too much noise for my piece? I think so. So what I'm going to do here, I'm trying to just continue some of these pieces, eliminating some of these strobe effects that are happening on some of these spots. And I can see that this is another spot right there. And you get accustomed to looking for these things as you do more of this. You can see right here, I'm going to pull that down. I got that little, right here is causing all of these. So I just want to eliminate some of that too. There we go. That's starting to look a lot better. Now, I want to bring that in. I want my my strands, my fibers that I use to be there, but I think I really need to knock that back. So I really made that. That's 24%. And you can see that's pretty nice on that. Now if I take this and I'm going to take the highlights again. I want to move that up a little bit more. That's getting lost on there. So this is all experimenting, testing, bringing it back, doing it over again. I'm going to see if my fibers are better on top of all of this. That helps a little bit as well. So I've got this starting to go along. This is the process. We are going to continue experimenting with this. I'll let you guys keep doing that. Let's say we don't like the hair color. Let's say our art director came by and said, hey, you know what? Good job, but bad job. We need to change a lot of stuff. So let's say that this is hair golden. And then we duplicate that. And with this next group, we're going to make that, I don't know, purple. Let's first try an adjustment. Now, this is kind of like a nuke adjustment. When you add this to your model or your texture, you went there because there was no other option. So let's see if this works for us. It usually, as you can see, it's grabbing everything. So the way to be smart about this is we can grab, like, let's say we grab the yellows, and I'm going to try and bring that to a purple or a red. I'm going to grab the cyans and try to mess around with these. So you can individually affect these, but it's very much like it is with a heavy hammer, because it's not really, I don't know, it's not super effective on that. Like, you can get something like this, and if you're making a game that's just that gross, okay, you've lost all sorts of values. You just got really blue, right? So there's other ways to do this. This can apply nicely if we're just trying to affect a color on a piece, but not for a whole head of hair, because we've got yellows, we've got browns, we've got reds in here. That's just not going to work on that. So again, it is an option, but it's like taking a hammer to I don't even know, trying to repair a fine piece of china. So not a good idea. I'm going to leave these strands on here, but I'm going to go to this bottom base color, and I'm going to try and change that with my adjustments now. So I'm actually going to go hue saturation, link that, and let's go to my adjustments on this, and let's see what we can do. Let's adjust that to being red. Save. Okay. So let's look at the two that we have now. We have red. And turn that one off. Turn this one on. Save. And we have gold. So this is an easy way to get things working. It looks like this is sampling still through to the other model under there too. So be aware of your base color, because that was actually set on multiply. So I'm going to go even more extreme on this now. So I went red. Absolutely, we can go grayish on that too, by impacting that. We would desaturate all the colors above that as well to go there. Let's say, so if I'm here, since these are all flowing from that, I may not be able to get the look I was wanting to go with. So let's see if we can make everything blue. So how could we do that? Let's delete that hue saturation out of there. I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer. I'm going to go maybe this like turquoise. Shift F5. And now this, I want to change that to color. So color is going to give me the blending effect of going straight down and through all these things. And that kind of can help. But it's really, again, it's kind of like grabbing the adjustments and just throwing that all straight down. So if I grab that, and then I also grab my highlights, and my shadows, and put that above there, I might have to increase my opacity on these or play around with it. But there are some ways that we can change that. This actually doesn't look too bad. What I would do is first make the adjustments of adding a solid color, put that on color mode, bring it above a level above that, and we can start to hand paint some purples or something in there, like dark blues that can go in. We'll set that as multiply, and we just kind of want to go across areas that we can hit up to get some more of those shadows built into this. So that this is how we'll build our depth on this, because we're kind of missing that when color hits that. Then again, this is tweaking this. And why am I even telling you guys about this stuff right now? This is the way the name of the game goes. Your art director is not going to come by and say, hey, I love everything you do all the time. If that's the case, then you're working from home, and you're probably living in a fantasy, because that's not how things work. Art directors are there to propose that. What if we do this? What if we did that? You're not going to have a game or a movie get created where it's all going to go the same, like effectively from start to finish, where nothing needs to be modified. There's going to be something that changes. And so your job as the artist is to go through and be able to adapt and modify your work and do it in a fast and timely way. And so there we go. I'm starting to get some base level colors into that. So so your job is not to sit there and say, well, this is how I like it. You can't do that. Your job is to sit there and say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir. We'll get that going. And most of the times, it's not like it's a scary military operation in which you're being barked at for orders. But you do need to realize your place. Your job is not to be the designer or concept artist. You're often, if you're the texture artist, you're at the end of the pipeline. So you need to be responsive. You need to understand that there are a whole bunch of other people working on your project, and you're just one of many other people that are just as passionate about what's the end product of this. It's just that right now you've got to respond and do things that people are telling you to do. So right now, if they said make this blue, this was a effect that I added. I added color above everything I had, so it washed everything out with this color. And now I'm going in and just adding a multiply for shadows to push back, and then I'm gonna go in and have an overlay on some spots. And if that's not showing up the way I want it to, my strength is set at, I'm using totally the wrong tool. I have my flow. Let's see if, there we go. Okay. I probably want to go light yellow and drop that down. I don't need a lot. As you can see, this is already terrible on how that was being treated. So my strength, I need to drop that, and then I just kind of blend this in. Now, that was a really heavy-handed way of me adding that. So, and I'm using my mouse, which again, if an art director catches you using a mouse for painted textures, man, you're gone. So I'm just, for the sake of trying to get this in, to show you guys, this is how we can quickly build this out. Now, again, I'm seeing some spots where there's too much shadow. I'm going to drag over some of these highlight tones to this area and just clean that up. And just going straight up and down, that's all we're doing to build up these strands. And eventually you'll have some nice tones on this. It's starting to get there. And you can see there's some spots right there that's just dipping down a little bit too much. Well, I'll work that up a little bit more. You might need to bring in your color again at a overlay opacity, maybe a little bit less this time, just to fill that up, save, and you just fix that spot. So different ways to build up your colors. I now have different versions, so my art director can come through and say, hey, no, I didn't want the blue one. Where's, you got another one? Okay, you got this one? Okay. And you can choose between these. You're not stuck with one piece. More often than not, you will have to have a couple versions built up, because you're going to have to spin it around. You're going to have to look at it to come to a final conclusion. And so this is a great way to be able to do that. So this concludes the last tutorial for our class. Hopefully you guys learned a lot. Finish this up, obviously. Polish this up as much as you can. The critique that I have for myself right now, I would still want this built up, some more depth on here. My eye around here needs to be cleaned up. I don't really like this really hard edge that I'm seeing here with the center of the eye, or the edge of the eye here. It's kind of too diamond or jagged. I want a little bit more shadow under the nostrils here, and these lips are totally placeholder. They're gross. They need to have a lot more depth to them. So, this is where I'm at right now, and if you can get to this point, that's you did a great job for your first hand painted texture. But I want you to realize too, even if you feel you're at a complete point, do a self critique on your stuff, and then have other people look at your stuff, because you're going to learn a lot from revisiting your past work, or you're going to learn a ton just by stopping. Put your Wacom pen down and just look at the model and start trying to compare it to other people's work. Try to figure out what were the pros, what were the cons. And again, as always, I want you guys to realize that the only way you get good at this stuff is to do it over and over and over again. So this is your first head texture. It's not going to look great. I'm going to guarantee you that. If it does, that's awesome. I'm super excited for you. But in most cases, it's going to be something weird. So learn from that and then do it again. And you're going to get better at that. It's the same thing as when you were a little kid. You drew your first picture of a person. It looked like a circle, and it looked like you had sticks on that thing for legs and arms and all that stuff. And then you start to realize what you needed to do to change that stuff. That only comes through practice and the ability to self-evaluate your work. You can't self-evaluate if you don't have work to look at and even evaluate, right? So, thanks for sticking with me to the end of this semester, and hopefully, you guys are all doing great. And that's it.